You are listening to the Marriage Clinic Podcast, a podcast on love, marriage, and personal development. Our purpose is to inspire and equip you with knowledge and skills to enable you to have lasting and fulfilling relationships. Now your host, Joshua Mulgrew.
Hello and welcome again. This is the Marriage Clinic Podcast. It's a podcast on love, marriage, and your personal development. And once again, it is me here, your regular host, all the way from Ghana, West Africa. It is me, Dr. Joshua Mulgrew, as I bring to you something fresh this week that I'm sure you would love. So please put a hello in the comments right now, and also let me know where you're watching from. So tell me the time of where you're watching from, and then also tell me the country and the city you're watching from, and we would love to interact. Today's topic is one like no other. One like no other. I nearly said guess what the topic is, but you probably would not be able to guess what the topic is. So I'll tell you anyway. Today's topic is interesting, and I call it the ghost of relationships past. Ghost of relationships past. I hear people ask all the time, they say, is the Marriage Clinic Podcast for single people or the Marriage Clinic Podcast is for married people? The truth is that the Marriage Clinic Podcast is for both, because I keep going between subjects that are very important or speak directly to single people, and I talk about it in such a way that married people are able to see where they made mistakes when they were single. And when I talk about married problems or married issues, it allows people who are not yet married to prepare themselves in such a way that they are ready for marriage when they do get there. So, the Marriage Clinic Podcast is for single people, it's for married people, it's for divorced people, it's for people who may not even want to get married, but we all encounter married people and marriage situations, and you will need it. So today we're starting a new series on the ghost of relationship past, how to deal with your exes after you are married. And please tell a friend as we gather around to listen to what we are discussing today. All right, let me just jump right into it. You see, it's important to recognize that the experiences you had with other people in relationships, both good and bad, affect how your current marriage is going to go. We are products of our experiences. So if you had a very good relationship that did not work out into marriage, and then you ended up marrying someone new, the experiences you bring from that good relationship, probably the person passed away, or probably for various reasons you couldn't get married, and now you are married, you bring those experiences to bear in your new marriage. So let me just read this for you. In the same way, the experience of past relationships come a long way to affecting current marriages. It is not uncommon to find that many of the ways people behave and react in marriage can be traced back to experiences with an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. So you need to realize that the way you accept love, the way you think about love, the level of trust you have for your husband or your wife has been affected by the relationship you had before you got married. So it's important that we look at it. Now, for most people, there's either a yearning for their ex. Most people, not all people, there's either a yearning for their ex, as in, I miss him or I miss her. I wish I had married him or I had married her. And then there's also the other scenario where all of a sudden there is a disdain for your ex. I hate him. I hate her. This is the worst thing that ever happened to me. I wish I had my way. I just pray you are not trying to kill your ex. But most people have one or two of these experiences. And for people who had multiple relationships before they got married, you will realize that it is a whole mixture of all of these things. So today I'm going to talk to you in this episode about the kinds of attachments you will have to your ex, the kinds of attachments that we see you having to your ex, and then in subsequent ones I'm going to talk about how to deal with these problems. So as I said earlier, this is the Marriage Clinic podcast. Please share this wherever you are listening to it. If you're listening to it on the socials or watching it on the socials, please share it. Please send the link to a friend who will send it to a friend. Because in the long run, all we want to do is see more people affected and relationships get better. I'm extremely passionate about relationships and us getting the marriage puzzle done well. So the first kind of attachment is the physical attachment. The first kind of attachment you can have to your ex, even though you are married, is the physical attachment. Put that in the chat. Physical attachment. This is funny. It is a funny form of attachment when one feels an unhealthy need to physically be around their ex. So you may be married to whoever your wife is now, but you just always feel like seeing your ex. You feel like being around the person. For instance, you may be meeting your ex from time to time for lunch. You may be visiting them even though you are still married. Even though you claim it's over, you still find yourself going to your ex from time. Sometimes she drives by your office, she just pops up in your office. She's so used to coming to your office. Even though you're broken up and you're married now, she still pops up in your office from time to time and she's just there to say hello. So, and the moment you find yourself not telling your husband or your wife that you saw your ex, then there's a problem. Well, you may be saying, so Josh, are you saying that it's not possible for me to still be friends with my ex? I don't advise you remain friends with your ex. You may be acquaintances with your ex. But anytime you have a meeting with your ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend, and you find it hard to tell the person you are married to that I was with Jennifer today, or I was with Michael today, or I had lunch with Michael, the moment you find it very hard to mention it to your spouse, that means in your subconscious, you are doing something you shouldn't be doing. And remember, a lie of omission is still a lie. I hear people say, oh, but they didn't ask me about it, so that's why I didn't say it. You know that a lie of omission is still a lie. So that's the first kind of attachment. The second kind of attachment we have is the emotional attachment. So the first one is the physical, where you always want to see the person, and the next one is the emotional attachment. Emotional attachments they are a strange one. You can be emotionally attached to an ex you haven't seen or heard from in years. You can be emotionally attached to an ex you haven't seen or heard from in years, and it still goes to affect your marriage. How does it affect your marriage? It may be an attachment of love, where you still have a crush, you still carry a torch for the person that you have broken up with, so you still have strong feelings of love. You still find yourself wishing that you hadn't broke up with the person. You find yourself always thinking of the person from time to time, even though you are not seeing the person. I was once dealing with a situation where with someone who was single, who told me how her ex-boyfriend would always call her up and tell her, baby, I still love you. I may be married. The biggest mistake I made was getting married to this person, and if you would just tell me there's hope for us, I'm willing to break up the marriage I am in and come back to you, simply because the person still has a strong emotion of love. A strong emotion of love. Now, this is very common, especially with couples who are facing the shocks of the first few months of marriage, or the first year of marriage. Let me backtrack and explain something. The first year of marriage for most couples, not all couples, the first year of marriage for most couples is one of the most difficult. The first year of marriage can be one of the most difficult seasons, because you are learning to love each other, you are learning to live with somebody that you didn't live with all your life, and you are trying to find a way out. You need to understand that in that first year of marriage, there is the temptation to always fantasize about an ex that you loved, an ex that treated you nicely, especially when the way you want to be loved, the person you are married to is now not treating you in that same way. So it's important to realize that when it comes to emotional attachment, it may be an attachment of love. But then there's also the flip side. The yin may be love and the yang, yin and yang, and the yang may be hate. I also know people who are married, this person loves them, but they can't get over the hurt, the emotional hurt that their ex caused them. And from time to time, anytime it comes to mind, they are extremely angry. It affects their emotions. One couple I was dealing with, the man was saying that even when someone appears on TV and has the name, just the first name of her ex, she gets upset. So sometimes it's love and sometimes it's hate. Whatever thing it is, if you are still having that emotional attachment to your ex, it's going to affect how you live in your marriage, how you love your spouse, and how you continue to move. So I said number one is a physical attachment. Number two is emotional attachment. And emotional attachments to your ex while you are married manifests itself in love and manifests itself in resentment or anger. So that is, those are the first two. Brings us to number three. Number three is an interesting one. That is, I like to call it relational attachment. Relational attachment. This is a challenge that shows up normally when you date in a small town. This form of attachment is when you and your ex still interact often because you are still in the same small group, you are still in the same church, you still work in the same office. So in this situation, you've broken up with the person, you are married to someone else, but on a daily basis, or a weekly basis, you still have to interact with the person that you have broken up with because you find yourself in the same relational situation. So sometimes, I know some people who date in church and the relationship doesn't work out, and if, let's say for instance, it's the man now goes to marry a different lady and she joins the church. So he is still in the church, his ex is in the church, and his wife is in the church. Or where some people experiment with office romantic situations where you dated someone in the office, it didn't work out, and now you're married, but on a daily basis you still have to interact with the person that you said you didn't want to see any longer. So here there's a relational attachment, but it is forced on you because of your situation. So that's the third kind of attachment that we see. The fourth kind of attachment that we have, and we see people have even though they are married, is what we call the sexual attachment. If you you could look for some of, I think within the first 3 or 4 podcasts, I did a series on sex and why sex is not casual. You can go look at that, go listen to it. And why I advise couples that when you are not married, don't have sex. Don't sleep with someone you're not married to. I know you may think it's outdated. I know you may think that it really doesn't matter in today's times, but it does matter. We need to remember all the time that sex, you never really walk away from someone you sleep with. So what tends to happen is that when you have broken up with a person and you haven't gone through the right kind of therapy, both spiritual and psychological therapy, to get over your sexual link with the person, you still find yourself attached to this person for sexual reasons. Now, let me quickly read something from 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 16. It says, there's more to sex than mere skin on skin. Sex is a much spiritual mystery as a physical fact. So you need to remember that sometimes the sex you had with your ex impacts the sex and the relationship you're having with your current spouse. There was a sad situation where a lady was talking and she said, whenever she's being intimate with her husband, unless for her to be able to reach orgasm, she has to imagine her ex. So she says sometimes she has to transpose the face of her ex onto her current husband. There are people who cannot put themselves in certain sexual positions because those sexual positions remind them of their relationships with their ex, and these issues have not been dealt with. Sex keeps you linked. Sex reminds you. You can forget, I say this all the time, you can forget someone easily if it was just a friendship. You can forget it when a thief robbed you. But it is nearly impossible to forget a sexual encounter you had with someone. And that also creates an attachment even after you're married. So if you are out there and you're not sexually active, please, I'm giving you another reason why you shouldn't become sexually active before you get married, because there's so much you have to unlearn and unpack while you're married, and it doesn't help. So number 4 is sexual attachment. This is the Marriage Clinic podcast. As I keep reminding, it's a podcast on love. It's a podcast on marriage. It is a podcast on your personal development. And as you know, my name is Dr. Joshua Mogri. And please, let's keep interacting on this. Now, I'm going to give you the last 2, probably, with the time that we have. The next one is the spiritual attachment. The spiritual attachment. When you are in love, we do crazy things, okay? I know people who have done crazy things. Now, I'm a person of faith. I am a person of faith. In Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21, it says that life and death lie in the power of the tongue. I believe, and science has also proved, that things you say cause a ripple effect that eventually affect your life. Now, sometimes when we are in love, people begin to say very crazy things. They say things like, if I ever break up with you, it should never be well with me. We hear guys who sometimes when they are trying to convince a lady to sleep with them, they promise the lady, they say, listen, if after sleeping with you, and sometimes maybe it's the lady's first sexual encounter, they say, I know sex is so important, and if I sleep with you and I leave you, let it affect my children. And things that you say have spiritual implications. So those things from the ex have an influence. And then there's also the crazy side. Let me tell you a funny story. A couple of years ago, this is long ago, when my driving instructor was telling me about he and his, she was his ex at that point in time. And he said it's very difficult to forget about her because when we were in love, we were walking on the beach one time and she said we should have a blood covenant. So he said, I slit my wrist, she slit her wrist, we mixed our blood together, and then we rinsed our hands in the sea, and we said we would be bonded to each other forever. If you're not a person of faith, you may not believe this, but as people of faith, we know that in doing that, you've initiated a covenant, and it makes it so difficult for you to be able to move on. You may be asking, Pastor Josh, if I have done this, what do I do? I have another, go on YouTube, I have prayers for singles. There's a component there that deals with covenants and spiritual links that may have been created through relationships. Or find a Bible-believing church, talk to the pastor, tell him what you've gone through, and then help him to be able to talk to him, to pray with you, and lead you to pray. And this should be able to help you overcome these challenges. So these are the 5 kinds of attachments that you can still have to your ex even after you're married. To give you a quick recap, number 1 is the physical attachment. That is when you still have an uncontrollable desire to meet the person that you are broken up with, even though you are married to someone else. The second one is emotional attachment. Emotional attachment manifests itself either in you still having a crush, love, fantasies about the person you are with, or having severe hate and resentment for your ex. Then we have the relational attachment. That is when just by virtue of where you live, where you work, where you do life, you keep encountering your ex. Then number 4 is sexual attachment, where the sex you had with the person is still keeping you linked. And number 5 is spiritual attachment. So here we are. I hope this is giving you a bit of a diagnosis about if you still have attachment issues with your ex. And if you still have attachment issues with your ex, do not fret. Next week, when we meet once again, I'm going to be coming to you with why it is important to sever every relationship with your past ex. Why you need to make sure you stop interacting with your ex. I've been counseling marriages for years, well over a decade now, and I can tell you for a fact, keeping a relationship with an ex is never helpful. Keeping a relationship with an ex is never helpful. It's never helpful. You may talk about all the benefits, but trust me, you're only talking about the benefits normally for selfish reasons. The benefits do not outweigh the problems that come with it. Why is it important to make sure you cut all relationships with your past, all communication as much as possible with your past, your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend? Why is it important? I'm a history buff, okay? I love to listen to history. I love to look at history. I love to study history. And one of the things I have noticed about history is that there's this story we read from, I think it's 1519 AD. This is during the Spanish conquest. Now, when their leader, their commander, came with all the Spanish ships and they hit the coast of Mexico, he ordered that all their ships should be burnt. Every ship should be burnt. And one of his lieutenants protested and he had him killed. So what did they do? They burnt down every single ship that they came with. And he told the men that he was with, he said, now here is the issue. We either win or we die. We either win or we die. Anytime you keep maintaining a relationship with your ex after you are married, it is important for you to know that it affects how committed you are into your relationship. So basically, the concept was this. If we don't fight, we die in Mexico. Anytime you leave a back door in the relationship that you are in, it doesn't allow you to fully commit and give your best self to your spouse. And here's the thing. We say this all the time when I'm leading people to marry. There's one of the marriage vows that I like, and a part of it says, forsaking all others. Forsaking all others. And you need to remember very clearly that when you do get married, you have to forsake all others. And that includes Michael, that includes Hussein, that includes Aisha, that includes Equia, that includes Motombo, whoever. Mention their names, male or female. When you get married, you forsake everybody you were with. So, yeah, I'm coming strongly at you because of all the comments that came. Now, for those of you who, and I love it, for those of you who keep saying there's nothing wrong, and if you are actively engaged in communicating with your ex even though you are married, I want you to answer these questions. Question number 1. Would I be comfortable if my spouse heard and read all the things my ex and I talk about? I can see some of you running to delete things on the phone right now. You're like, oops, I left that message on my phone. That's the question. Would I be comfortable if my spouse heard and read all the things my ex and I talked about? If you claim that there's nothing wrong with interacting with your ex, why do you keep deleting messages? Why do you still have a secret code? Things you say, but you wouldn't want your spouse to say. If everything is above board, then your communication, your entire communication, you should be able to share with your spouse. I can hear a pin drop. Then here's the second question. Whenever I have a fight with my spouse, do I imagine a better life with my ex? Whenever I have a fight with my spouse, do I imagine a better life with my ex? Whenever I have a fight with my spouse, do I imagine a better life with my ex? Because what tends to happen is that if you are still maintaining a relationship with your ex, a lot of the time, anytime you have a problem, the person is your default setting. You keep going back to the default. And it doesn't allow you to put all your energies into the marriage that you have. Question number 3. Do I have to delete text messages, call logs, WhatsApp messages, and other forms of communication with my ex so that no one else sees it? Guilty as charged. If you find yourself having to delete stuff, then that means that you know in your subconscious that you shouldn't be saying and sharing those things. Now I'm going to hit you with a final question and we'll go on. Is my ex one of the first people I think of reaching out to when I am upset with my spouse? Is my ex one of the first people I think of reaching out to when I'm upset with my spouse? So the first reason why you should break communication with your ex when you're married is that it gives you a constant reminder of what you had, and it doesn't allow you to safely work on the marriage that you have now. Okay? Number 2, the second reason why you should break communication is that it gives the person a hold over you. It gives the person a hold over you. It gives them a seat at the table. It gives them the right to speak about your marriage and try to control it. This exposes you and your spouse to the voice that shouldn't even be speaking into your marriage in the first place. Because you are sharing what is going on in your marriage with your ex, and your ex is running commentary. Even if they are trying to sound nice and supportive. Let that sink in there. You see, they will normally cloak their agenda with good advice. Alright? They say things like, be patient with your wife. You know, you just had a fight with your wife and you've called up your ex and you say, can you believe what she did? She says, oh, you know the way women are. With us women, you have to be patient with us. You have to know how to talk to us. But as she's giving you that advice, she's giving you the treatment you wish you were having from your wife. So, inadvertently, it is affecting how you can work out things with your wife because the person is speaking into your marriage. So the second reason is that it gives a person a hold over you. Now, I don't know what country you're listening from, but in Ghana, one of the best meals we have and we are willing to go to war for is jollof rice. Not Nigerian jollof. Senegalese, please sit down. We don't even want to hear you talk about jollof. The only jollof worth eating is yours truly, Ghana jollof. Now, if I served you a plate of Ghana jollof with chicken and every other thing that you wanted with it, and it's the best kind of jollof you wanted, but you saw me sprinkle a little bit of poison on it, would you eat it? I can hear you say, oh, hey, no, I'm not going to eat it. Yes, you wouldn't eat it because you saw there was poison on it, even though it was a nice meal. In the same way, every time you give your ex an opportunity to speak into your marriage, it may be nice advice, but it is always laced with poison that is going to end up affecting your marriage. So remember that. Remember that quite closely and keenly, that it gives them a voice in your marriage. It allows them to speak into your marriage when they should not be speaking into your marriage. And it gives them a hold over you. Brings me to point number 3. It increases the possibility of an affair. There's, in the northern part of Ghana, and I think in most of Ghana, there's always a proverb that says, old firewood easily catches fire. Meaning when you had a log that was burning and then you took the log out and the fire went off. When you're trying to start fire, it's much easier to start with that because it's dry, it knows where to burn. Your ex is dangerous because she knows things about you that no one else knows, and it is very easy to fall back into bad habits. She can look at your face and just tell you, you had a hard day. Or he can look at you, smile, and give you a bottle of Coke because he knows Coke is what you love most on a Friday evening. He can smile at you and tickle you in a place that you alone and you and him alone know that you are ticklish there. And your current husband, who knows nothing about it, doesn't know that the back of your left ear is one of the most sensitive places for you. The chances that you will cheat with an ex are high because it's comfortable. You don't have to say too much. And you can easily say it was a mistake. Keeping a relationship with your ex opens your marriage up to an affair. And when we talk about affairs, I'm not only talking about sexual and physical affairs, we're also talking about emotional affairs and emotional attachment. If you found my book, let me put it up to the camera. Here's my book. It's Secrets to Staying Married. And the tagline is Getting Married is Easy, Staying Married. Now that's the challenge. I have a chapter on extramarital affairs. You should look for it. Look for it on Amazon, and we'll put some links in the show notes so that you can be able to find a link to buy it, or send us a direct message and we can ship it to you wherever you are. But you need to understand that keeping in touch with your ex creates a situation where you can easily have an affair with your ex. And that's not the best. It brings me to the next one. Now this one hurts a bit. It is deeply offensive to your partner. It is deeply offensive to your wife or to your husband to be maintaining a relationship with someone you have told them that you have nothing to do with and you don't even love any longer. If you haven't noticed yet, your partner is a human being. Being in communication with your ex only hurts your partner. Choosing to engage an ex in communication, that is out of place. It's a slap in the face of the person you are marrying. All right? Now, by now you should know that I'm a person of faith. Now, let me read something from the Bible for you. Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of the others." The moment you keep in touch with your ex, you are looking to your own selfish interest. And the thing about marriage is that marriage is you sacrificing what you want and what you feel like in order to make the person you are in love with, that is your spouse, have a better life. So it's deeply offensive to your spouse. It's deeply offensive to your spouse. It's deeply offensive to your spouse. Please don't do it. Please do not do it. Then it brings me to the next one. It gives you double vision. It gives you double vision. You see, I think it's in Things Fall Apart, Chinua Achebe's book, where it says that you can't look into a bottle with both eyes. You can't look into a bottle with both eyes. I mean, those little bottles. In order to see what is in the bottle, you need to be able to close one eye. You can't, and the great rabbi, Jesus, said, you can't serve two masters. You love one and you hate one. I hear people say, I'm in love with two ladies. No, you're not in love with two ladies. You will always love one more than the other. And any time you spend with your ex giving them affection is affection you are keeping away from the person you're married to. And that is wrong. That is wrong. So the next one is that it gives you double vision. It gives you double vision. It gives you double vision. I'm talking to you about why you should not be communicating with your ex. I said, number one, it's a constant reminder of what you used to have. Your ex is in your rearview mirror, so look through your windscreen. Number two, I said it gives the other person a hold over you. It gives the person a hold over you. Number three is it increases the possibilities of an affair. Number four is that it's deeply offensive to your partner. And number five is that it gives you double vision. I'm talking in the context of marriage, but this also applies if you are dating someone. It's not only about marriage, it also applies when you are dating someone. If you're in a new relationship and you want this relationship to work and hopefully lead to marriage, you should be able to turn the lights off on your past relationships. Marriage and relationships take a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of sacrifice. And I do admit getting rid of your ex can be emotionally draining, but that is why you have to do it. So I don't know. I just feel strongly I should pray for someone who is struggling with this. So let's pray. Father in heaven, I pray for everyone who is struggling with letting go of an ex and how an ex keeps interrupting the current relationship they are in. I ask that, Father, you will empower them, grant them the strength to walk away. We break every link that may exist and we declare they are set free in Jesus' name. Amen. So it's good to hear from you. Please drop a comment. Please send me a DM, send me a message. I want to know what's going on with you. I want to know how these messages and this podcast is impacting you. I also want to know how we could improve, what we could do more of, what we could do less of. As I keep telling you, we still have a few topics to cover, and then we'll be transitioning into new styles and new things to do with the marriage clinic. So I am your host, Dr. Joshua Mogri. It's been great bringing you this with the entire team, and we will be with you next week once again. Love you. God bless. Take good care of yourself.
Okay, so this is an interesting question. Hello, I'd like to remain anonymous. Too many of you want to remain anonymous. I need names to mention. My husband has an excessive desire for sex. Almost every day he wants to engage in sexual activity. He gets upset when I refuse. What can I do to address this situation? First of all, I want to announce to you that it's a general problem. All men like sex. It's not a problem your husband has, unless he's asking for sex up to 3 times or 4 times every day in a row, and you are giving him the sex and he is still asking the next day, every day in a row. Then he may have a super high libido, but it's a good place to be in. But I would advise you that, as I tell people, we have 3 kinds of sex. We have sex to meet a need, we have good sex, and we have great sex. If he wants sex, give him sex. It doesn't last that long. And if it will make him happy, put him in a better place, allow him to be able to resist temptation some more and so on. Sometimes sex is a duty, but try your best. Remember that if you do give him regular sex, he's not going to want sex as much, because some guys have a 48-hour cycle of, if they have sex in 2 days' time, they want to have sex. Some have a 72-hour. Some have a particular week where they are really randy and then they go off for a number of days and come back. So please, it's a good place to be. Do not see sex as a burden. Remember, it doesn't take that long. So go have fun. Take care of yourselves. It's been great having this time. Bye-bye.